Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. I grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This midweek episode will be going over the forums once again, and we'll be going over one that I've specifically picked out, and it's something that a lot of PvPers have not been enjoying, we'll say, and that is a comment about full moon. Now, for those who don't know, for those who PvE, full moon right now in PvP is hitting very, very hard. You can have up to, you say an average person's health pool is about 600k. You have full moons that are hitting for about 300 to 350 potentially if you're crit, depending on your mastery, etc. So it's hitting very hard. This comment was actually made by a high-rated PvP druid, balanced druid, and it essentially says this: "Can we nerf this toxic ability? It's not fun to play as, and it's also not fun to fight. Versus half moon crits 280k, new moon crits 200k, full moon crits can crit 300k plus, depending on mastery. It's just bonkers that this is even played in PvP right now." Now, I do have to agree with him. Full moon in a PvP setting doesn't fit. It's a massive one-shot ability that basically you stand there for 2 seconds, cast it, and if you get it, great. If you don't, it's a try again. It's more of a you're banging your head against the door or this brick wall trying to cast this ability. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. It can be really annoying to actually play with. It doesn't feel smooth at all. On the other hand, I do like the big numbers. It is hilarious, but there shouldn't be these types of numbers in PvP at all. Straight up, these sort of numbers should not be in the game at all. This is coming from a Boomkin player, both on the forum and myself, who is a Boomkin player. These numbers shouldn't be in the game. Any one-shot type of thing in the game shouldn't be there. From a PvP perspective, do anything you want with the numbers in terms of PvE, because obviously you have raid bosses and you can tune it to that sort of thing. But in PvP, players have 600k. You're doing about 370k, with a combo, like a full moon and a star surge, same time in one global. If you get a full moon proc as well at the same time, that can be about 470k. You can 100-0 someone with this very easily, with all the stars aligning essentially. But it shouldn't be in the game. It's as simple as that. The way that Blizzard wanted to buff it, because a lot of people were taking Fury of Elune. About probably 90% of the player base probably were taking Fury of Elune. That's PvP and PvE. In PvP, it was 100% people taking Fury of Elune. So they wanted to buff it and kind of bring these talents more in line with each other. So it's kind of like a 50-50 split is kind of what they're going for. But with the way that Full Moon is designed, it will either be broken or it will be awful. There is no in between. They would have to kind of do a revamp of it, a tiny revamp. Maybe it's kind of like Fury of Elune. Instead of one big giant moon, you can have loads of sort of small moons that you just lob at people, that come crashing down. Like the shooting stars and stuff like that. You could just have like loads of small moons that come crashing down, and each moon that crashes down, gives you a small amount of astral power, that kind of deal. But it doesn't hit for 300k. Instead, it's maybe kind of like the rifts from Destrolock. So they do about 100k in total, but they give you a lot of astral power generation. They give you 40 over the course of 6 seconds or something, that kind of deal. Because them sort of abilities are a lot easier to tweak, in my opinion, because if you're looking at raw damage numbers, it's either going to be worth it or it isn't. Whereas other things like Fury of Elune are going to be a lot more situational, like the fungi or whatever talent. Again, is going to be a lot more situational with melees, etc. But again, it really isn't a good place to have just massive one shots in PvP at all. I get it for PvE, it might be fun. People don't enjoy going against it. as a player. I find it hilarious when I one-shot someone as a boomy, but at the same time, I can see it from the other side. It doesn't look fun. I have been on the receiving end of it. Sometimes you stand there and just have to laugh and go next, which is quite funny. You know, you get these patches where there's something at the beginning of the patch or at the end where it's just absolutely busted. If you look at Battle for Azeroth, you had Destro locks that were like destroying people with Chaos Bolt. You know, you have rogues at the start of Shadowlands and Dragonflight with Secret Tech, where they can just one-shot someone. You have a lot of stuff that like breaks the game, and this is the latest one to do so. I think Full Moon as a whole definitely needs a revamp. It's such a cool ability, and I love the like idea of it. So keep the idea, but just change it, just tweak it. Instead of like it being a massive bulky damaging ability, it still does a fair amount of damage, but over the course of like 5 to 6 seconds, plus gives you like a small bit of astral power, 30, 40, whatever you want to do. And just change the like animation. Like there's loads of small moons that come crashing down. They're the same as the full moon, but just scaled down in size. You know, that kind of deal. Put it on the same kind of idea as Fury of a Loon. Instead of having a beam, you have these moons that come crashing down, these smaller moons that come crashing down. You know, there's many different things that you can do with it, but it is not it's not in a good place. It's not in a healthy place for PvP, and it's something that people will start to more and more progressively get annoyed at the longer that it stays like pretty much at that rate. At the same time, you have people who are crying about Cyclone, which I find hilarious because Cyclone has always been the same. Right, its entire history has never changed. The difference with it is obviously you have high winds, a PvP talent, where it reduces the healing damage done of the target when they get out of the Cyclone by 30%. But it's also become one of the best CCs purely on the basis that they nerfed all of the other CCs. The like longest CC that you can have now is 6 seconds, which happens to be Cyclone's normal like timer. Whereas you had stuff that was like Blind, which was 8 seconds, Polymorph, which was 8 seconds as well. You know, you had these other CCs that were very high up on the list, but they all got nerfed and brought back down below 6 seconds or like lower. So Cyclone is obviously one of the front runners now, and with a PvP talent, suddenly it's, you know, one of the big problems. Which I can understand. Maybe like you need to tweak high winds a bit because it is such a big impact, like 30%, when they come out of the Cyclone, or you know, just simply, I don't know. You can't nerf the CC because it's always been the same. It's mainly down to high wind. I think that's the problem with Cyclone more than anything. But yeah, there's not much you can do about it. We'll see. I think they'll get round to nerfing high winds eventually. They'll drop it down to like 25% or 30 or 20%, you know, something like that. Maybe even 15. Still very impactful, but we can only wait and see. But that is it for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. As always, do check out all of the socials down below. You have Twitch, YouTube, constant stuff happening over there. Thank you all very much for listening once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.